Happy Halloween, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
So we're doing a listener stories episode. This one is an extra long episode full of some of our spookiest stories with a little treat at the end. So I picked 2 emails out. I literally went to our email, typed in scary to search for our listener stories, and picked 2 of the ones solely based on the subject line.
I'm intrigued. So you have a blind reaction.
Yes. So I'll have a blind reaction. Natalie's going to read one of them and I'll read the other. That will come at the end, though. Our tea today is Halloween Party by Harney and Sons.
It's so fitting. I'm excited.
It's based off of the Agatha Christie book. I'm super pumped.
I'm ready. Let's go. Tastes like a Halloween party to me.
It's pretty good.
I like it, but let's not keep the people waiting. Let's give them what they want.
Now it's time to light the black flame candle.
So get your snack, get your tea, get your crafts, and let's listen. It's just a candle from Spirit.
Our first email is actually a response from Janet. She was the one with the story of the spirits with no eyes.
Oh no.
Hello, it's Janet again. Let me explain about why they had no eyes. My mom told me that anything that has no eyes is evil, and sometimes the evil that my great-great-grandfather took out of people because he was a medicine man.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They were not exorcisms, but things that made people evil. I now live in Parker, Arizona, and I've had more experiences here. My first was when I was 16. I was sleeping, and then I started to go numb and couldn't move. No one was in the room, which was weird because my cousin and Tio were also in the room when I went to sleep. I tried to speak because I was scared. I looked up and saw something crawling on the wall. It was full of spikes, and its head was upside down. I closed my eyes and did the Lord's Prayer. I stopped and woke up, and I saw my cousin and Tio asleep. I had insomnia after that.
Spikes? Like Hellraiser?
Yeah, but with an upside down head.
What?
When I went to live with my Tia Chris and Tia Lisa after I graduated, I found out I was pregnant with my baby girl. She's about to turn 1 in December this year. I had her at 19. I would see my Tio Macho. He was my Tia Chris's husband who died in 2013. One day I fell into a deep sleep and woke up to a demon on top of my pregnant belly. I tried to move because I was scared it would hurt my baby. My Tio's ghost told the demon, "Get off," in Spanish. It went away and my baby was safe. My Tia Chris told me 2 days after I gave birth that in the middle of the night, my mom came to her in a dream telling her, "Mija needs you." I went to Havasu at 2 a.m. because I was having strong contractions. It was like she knew I was ready to give birth. Thank you, and I will tell you more next month about more scary things I have seen.
That is so real to me.
The dream, him coming and telling it to get away.
Yes.
And protecting her and her baby.
Oh my gosh. I was so scared, but now I'm like, we're fine.
She's protected. Thank you for coming back with that because we needed that. I needed that. Next, we have a response from Tierra, the one with the lady crawling down the stairs or running down the stairs at her and the possessions and all that. Hi, Macy and Natalie. Thank you so much for sharing my story. I have billions more. Sorry, it was so spooky. Haha. I have a couple besides the lady chasing me down the stairs or watching a child being dragged down the hall. I know you guys wanted to hear about dreams, so here you go. I never dream. In fact, I can't even see a picture of an apple in my head if I think hard. So dreams are black with emotion in a way.
That is something that I recently found out.
Yeah, like in the last year.
Not everybody can picture things in their mind, and not everybody has an inner voice either.
Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about it once before, but yeah, I've never met anybody like that. Or
that you know
spoken to.
I can't even think about what that's like because if I think about something, I see it. I can see it.
Yeah. There was a night I was asleep and had a vivid dream of my grandpa. He just smiled and told me he loved taking care of me when I was little and that he had passed on. I woke up confused and went to talk to my mom who just got off the phone. As soon as she got off the phone, I told her about my dream. She paused and said she just got off the phone and grandpa passed away last night. She was speechless. Oh. So she never dreams, but he still came to her to say, "Hey, I love you."
That's so
touching. I love that you had that experience.
Me too. I think all of the visitation dreams and things that we talked about, that was one of our most emotional episodes. Mm-hmm. People still comment on that one like, wow, I'm bawling my eyes out. Like this was too much.
I know. I know. I did cry. I think I cried during that one.
That's heavy, but in a good way.
Another story happened in my old house. We were moving into a new house, but our new house didn't have hot water till the next day. So around 10 p.m., we grabbed the last of our boxes at our old house for the last time and decided everyone will take a turn to shower, then we'll say goodbye to the house. I was sitting on the floor in an empty living room, waiting. Power was cut off, so we used flashlights. And as I was sitting on the floor, I felt unsettled, like someone was watching me from the hallway. My dad came out from the shower, dressed and spooked. He asked why I was trying to prank him. I was confused. He said while he was in the shower, something was whispering behind the door and doing a long clawing sound down the door. I said I didn't do it. Nobody else showered and he made us all leave. That house was haunted. There was a random night when we lived there where 2 pots were dragging on the floor at 3 a.m. as if rats were under them or something. My mom saw them move around the floor and picked it up. Nothing was there.
Picking my feet up off the floor. Feeling scared.
It's down there. The clawing down the door and the whispering.
There are a few stories on the pod that I will never forget. And one that sticks out to me is, I think it was maybe in our first listener stories episode, where someone was in the shower and they saw a hand pressed up against the glass.
Yeah.
And that's what that reminded me of. Shower stuff.
Just reminds me of Psycho a little bit.
Yeah, but shower stuff is automatically, no matter what it is, terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Naked and afraid, like we've talked about. It's just like...
Next level.
Oh my gosh. What's worse? What is worse? Stuff while you're sleeping or stuff while you're in the shower?
Shower.
You
Because
think?
of the nakedness.
Okay, but what if you sleep naked? Then what?
Well, you know what? Then probably sleeping.
You think?
Because,
Let us know.
I don't know, when you wake up and something's messing with you, you're still kind of groggy and like not with it. But if you're in the shower, you could immediately run.
You're fully awake. You have water splashing on you. I don't know. I don't know what's scarier.
Leave us your opinion in the comments.
I would like to know.
Our next one comes from Libni in the comments. I work as a nurse and I worked during COVID. You had to gown up to go into rooms, and usually no one else except the nurse and doctor would go into the COVID patient's room. I had a patient with dementia late at night. When I was in to check on her, she stated, "Who is that girl that followed you in?" I at first thought maybe it's delirium, but when I asked jokingly, "Really? Where is the girl now?" The patient pointed across the room to the chair. I wanted to run. I have had similar experiences. Confused patients will see a child in his room or a little boy playing.
That just instantly, sorry, trying to lighten the mood a little bit. That just reminded me, you know that TikTok where it's like, "Mommy, a girl behind you."
No.
This woman gave her daughter her phone to take a picture of her like outfit or whatever, and she swiped over accidentally onto a filter where a little Bitmoji stands behind you. She's like, "Mommy, a girl behind you," and she's like, "Give me my phone." It's so good. That's what I was imagining. My God. I'm still scared.
Like, you have to still remain professional and you can't run, and you're just like, let's check your vitals. Like,
I don't know. Do you play it cool and be like, "Oh, that's my friend," or do you just say like, "What girl? What do you mean?"
probably be like, okay.
Yeah.
This next one comes from the comments as well on our Appalachia video from SR. I have an eerie story that happened to me while I was going to visit my mom in West Virginia during spring break. It was a Friday when I made my way over there. It was around 6, almost 7 p.m. when I was driving up this small road that leads up to our house. Since it was March, it was starting to get dark. The sun had just set. As I'm driving, I'm very excited that I finally made it and that I'm going to see my family. Although there are houses on this road, there are a lot of trees and land between the houses. When passing a bridge in a small patch of woods, I see something on the left side of the road. It was emerging out of the woods, and it had a weird walk, as though it was mimicking a human. It was tall, with a deer-like skull for a head, but it didn't have any antlers, just furry ears. It was a bit hunched over, and had rather long fingers, and was wearing very worn out and torn up clothing. When I saw it, it was almost like time had slowed down, and I could feel every hair on my body stand up. I just felt this indescribable fear. I sped all the way to my mom's house and was so scared to get out of the car. I didn't want to believe what I had saw, so I decided I would check that part of the woods during the daytime to see if there was anything that could look weird during the nighttime. But when I checked, there really wasn't anything but trees. Since I'm not very familiar with the area, I asked some relatives that live there about it. They told me that the area and mountains there are said to have some activity since a lot happened there during the Civil War. But now every time I go to my mom's house, I make sure to get there during the day, and I refuse to go out into the woods while it's dark outside.
What is that?
We have read several stories about that, and every time we do, someone in the comments says it's a Wendigo.
What is that?
I don't know. From what I've gathered just from people's comments, it's like sort of like a
Creature, human-like
maybe like
thing?
SW,
Yeah.
but different in a way. I'm not entirely sure.
I feel like people are going to drag us for not knowing what that is. Eventually, we'll talk about it, I'm sure.
I put it on my list after I saw a few people start talking about it.
What do you do in that moment?
They felt fear. And anytime you feel a sudden, indescribable fear just come from nowhere,
You're right.
Trust it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Isn't it so infuriating, I guess? I don't know if that's the word I would use, but how time really feels like it's like slow motion in the most intense and scary moments.
Yeah.
Really, it's probably like 2 seconds, but you feel like you were staring at it for like 30 minutes and you're just like frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's something to do with like fight or flight. That
Freeze.
That just messes with your sense of time. I don't know, but that story really freaked me out.
Yeah, I don't like feeling that.
Our next one, also from the comments, from Darker Vibes. Finally, a nice podcast to play all day while I cook and clean and work on my stuff. As for Ouija, I have a story to tell.
Oh, I feel like we need to do a Ouija boards part 2. I loved those stories. That's one of our scary episodes.
I agree. My mom told me not to use them too. And I did, and regretted it, but used them for years and years anyways. Something came when I was 13 with my friend Amy, saying they were Captain Howdy, which I had no clue who that was. My friend said, "What does that mean? A cowboy?" It said Satan, which Captain Howdy, I believe, is the, like, demon on The Exorcist.
What?
Like, that's the demon that it tells her its name is Captain Howdy.
No. There's no... Oh my God, no.
She said, "Prove it." And all of a sudden, banging on all 4 walls of her room happened and her pictures fell down. We were home alone as her mom was in Atlantic City, and man, we flew out of the house in slippers and PJs to our friend's house crying because they were outside. They laughed at us, so we went to my mom's around the block and cried to her. She was so mad we had done it and asked if we said goodbye. We had not.
Oh no.
She still says that's why that year I got severe depression and anxiety and had horrific luck my whole life after that for years and years.
Oh no.
I used it more with other friends as a teen. One was a boy who died in Florida and asked us to tell his mom. We Googled his name and yeah, he was in a car wreck. We live in New York and didn't know him. My friend told his mom what happened and she thanked us and knew he was around.
What? I've
That's
never
wild.
heard of that. Like of someone just from far off. Like, you know, I think we've heard of them where it's like
Like a nearby.
a person they knew or a kid in their school that they didn't really know, but they know something happened. But from that far away, just random, you're just tapping into whatever you can to get a message across.
Yeah, unless the boy had some kind of connection to that area of New York. Like maybe his family vacationed there or something. I don't know.
Crazy.
One day after turning 18, my boyfriend died and I was distraught. I'm so sorry. My friends and I began using them to speak to him, or what I thought was him. A psychic stopped me in public by coming into my work to say Spirit told her to warn me that a man I love who died is only speaking to me sometimes and to be more cautious. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "The board of the dead, honey. He wants you to stop using them. He loves you, but you're in danger. Something is bound to you now. Very dark. It found you once, and you've now let it in." Made me think of the demon from when I was a kid.
To have a random person come up to you and say that.
Find you at work. Come into your work just to tell you, hey, you need to protect yourself. That, as I was reading it, I've read this like 4 times. As I was reading it, my whole body just shivers.
I feel so uneasy right now. I feel the headache coming on.
Not another headache.
It just feels too real. I can logic my way out of a lot of things, but when a random person comes up to you and's like, "Hey, you don't know me, I don't know you, we've never spoken," but someone from the other side told me that.
Yeah.
I want something like that to happen to me.
I know.
I don't want something dark. I'm never going to play with a Ouija board. That's not going to happen. But I want a psychic to come to me and be like, "Hey, I know this about you." I think it would make me spiral, but at the same time, I'd be like, like I'd be excited.
To have that kind of experience.
Yes.
My friend's mom was a tarot reader, and they thought maybe it would help having her read for me. She said my boyfriend was trying to protect me from this dark spirit, but is weak as a new spirit, but won't let it kill me. I asked her to get it off of me, but she didn't know how. She also said her cards were so toxic from its energy, it couldn't be cleansed. She had the cards since the 70s and said she'd need to do a ritual and get rid of them so it didn't hurt her too. It scared me so bad. She got sick after it, with a flu-like sickness for months, and said it was because she read for me and warned me. So I felt guilty and didn't seek any more help. But one day, my very Christian friend said she could feel serious darkness on me while visiting her, and she'd like to pray for me. I said, "Okay, I'll try anything," and told her what happened. She brought me in her bathroom, away from our friends, and prayed in tongues over me, head to toe. And I kid you not, I felt something release. I fell on the floor, sobbing. My life slowly began to heal over time, and thankfully I learned proper ways to use them and close them out and protect myself using them. But after having my son, I don't use them at all now to be safe. I'm open to spirits and love ghost hunting and stuff, but yeah, it can be really awful.
Thank God you had your friend. I
That
was
someone
going to
found a
ask
way.
before you said that. Is it continuing? Do we know what happened?
No, she was released from it. And it's strange that her friend could even sense it on her.
Mhm.
She was like, hey, girl, I haven't seen you in a while, but
Something's up.
hey, you've got something wrong.
If someone ever said that to me, I would be so scared. Oh my gosh.
The fact that she went back to using Ouija boards, she was like,
I mean, hey,
that's
as long
so
as you're being
scary to
safe,
me.
do whatever.
Yeah,
but
I mean, as long as you're being safe and you're not scared, that's fine. But it couldn't be me.
no, never. I'm too scared to do anything.
Our next one has a picture with it.
Oh God.
Very
so
strange.
It's real.
So this one comes from Alma. In August of this year, my mother-in-law and her sister made a trip to the Grand Canyon National Park to see the amazing views and spend time together. They all met at the airport, got a van, and started going to the Airbnb that Friday. My mother-in-law said she heard a name in her head, but ignored it, not thinking much of it. So some random name.
Okay.
She called her second oldest son to show the house they were staying in, and as she was giving the tour, she said she felt off and felt like her heart wanted to come out of her chest. She did not think much of it again. Keep in mind, she kept telling her sister she wasn't feeling good and there was something in the house. She just had a feeling, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The second day, they woke up early to see the canyon view. When they were coming back, one of the sisters wanted to take a picture of everyone. As she did, they soon realized that my mother-in-law's face wasn't hers and also her hand. There were also 3 more faces visible in the photo that didn't belong. I have that picture. You want to see? That's her mother-in-law.
Shut up. Hold on. I'm scared. I want to look.
Just look. That's her hand down here holding something.
What is that?
That is somebody in the car
Why
with them.
is she like a shadow? She's like
And then
see-through.
If you turn the brightness up, I don't know if I can get it done, but like you can kind of see a face, like you can see 2 eyes back there. And then there's something else here that didn't belong to this lady. She had them circled in the picture. You're looking at the picture now, I guess.
Why does she look like that?
I don't know. It looks kind of freaky.
Oh my God.
That same night, they decided to get in the hot tub. My mother-in-law was not feeling good, so she did not get in, but was still nearby. They were having fun having their charcuterie board and drinking wine. Then they heard a noise as if the tub got jammed. They looked around and saw nothing, but afterward, my mother-in-law said she heard something. She looked at a window and she said she saw a black shadow with horns. She screamed and tried screaming again, but couldn't. She said she felt like they were choking her. 2 sisters went in the house to see if someone was in there, but did not see anyone. My mother-in-law said she blacked out, but kept hearing her sisters crying, screaming, and praying for her. Her sister told her that she started having a seizure and her head was going back and her eyes were red and black. All they kept thinking was to pray to God. And after everything happened, they all decided to sleep together that night. It is now September 9th, and she said she feels like she is missing a part of herself. So that like took something out of her.
Well, she's like translucent in the photo.
That is not her. Like, look at that. That's her arm right here. This is her arm.
And that the way that person is looking in, like, at the people.
Yeah.
The trip would end right there with that photo. We're in the car. Okay, Uber driver, keep going. You're coming home with me. I'm like...
You're coming home with me.
I'm not laughing.
I am.
You know that Coco Montrese? I'm not joking. You know what I'm talking about? No, you
I
don't.
don't.
They do.
They do. I don't.
Oh my God.
I knew that'd get you.
See, I say, actually, okay, I do lie. I say,
We've established that.
I say that I would be like, Uber driver, keep going. No, I would feel crazy saying it to them and I would just be scared. I'd tell them, thank you, leave them a big tip, and then I would freak out.
Find a way home somehow.
Yes, then I would freak out.
You know what? I feel weird talking about this stuff outside of this location because I don't want to be weird. I got a new babysitter recently and she asked, so what do you do? And I was like talking to her about, you know, my life. And then this came up and I was just like, oh, you know, I have a podcast. And she's like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't say anything else because I was like, I'm not presenting this information to just some random person. She's going to quit and leave.
Yeah.
And then a minute or so later, she's like, so do you talk about anything in particular? And I was like, well, the paranormal. And she was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, phew. Like finding like-minded people out in the world is kind of scary.
You know,
saying that to an Uber driver, you're like 50-50 chance he's going to think you're crazy and call the cops.
I feel like if you drive enough for Uber and Lyft and things like that at night, you have to have a story.
Oh, Jake used to drive for Uber and he had a few encounters that were just
You have to have something
okay.
crazy going on because in the nighttime, people lose their minds in general. Like, it's just the Wild West. I will say, before the pod, I didn't realize how many people
Yeah.
are into this and how many people have experiences. Because I always felt like, are we a little bit weird for like talking about this?
No, I always knew because I've always watched this kind of stuff. And if I'm watching people with like millions of followers talk about this stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm not alone, you know?
Yeah, I did feel very much like this isn't something common that people talk about until we started doing this. And all of our subscribers, all of the comments, I'm like, okay, yeah.
And now people who know us, like from our hometown and stuff, will come up and talk to us about some stuff like, oh, you know, when I was a kid, you know, we would see these lights out in the woods and, you know, things like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
They tell me and I'm like,
this?
Please don't. Not while I'm here getting my hair done. Please.
I'm more like, hey, wait, let me get my notebook.
Yeah.
Write this down.
No, but as of now, October 31st, 2024, my wig has not been ripped off and revealed my entire soul to anyone at my job. I work a different job than I worked when we started the pod.
Yeah.
And no one there ever found out. Now I work at a job with more coworkers.
I feel like you should have left and like threw flyers
Subscribe.
in the office and like ran.
No, I cut all ties.
Well, I hope that Alma's mother-in-law is doing much better.
Yeah, me too. We kind of got on a tangent because I forgot. I didn't want to talk about that anymore. I'm scared.
Yeah.
The photo.
I knew
is
that
really
was
scary.
your coping mechanism here. That you kind of usually do that. You're like, so anyway, let's talk about the weather.
I don't realize it until we've rambled, and I'm like, oh yeah, ghosts.
Our next email. It came with a video, but the video wouldn't work. And I didn't realize it didn't work until it was too late. And I didn't think I'd be getting an email back soon enough.
Dang it. Well, if we get it in time, put it in this video. Or,
Okay.
Yeah, put it in.
So this comes from Bryan. I work in a haunted gas station, and sometimes I hear singing.
Gas stations are all haunted, by the way. I don't care
agree.
what anyone says, even a brand new one.
I agree.
Haunted. They feel heavy like hotels to me.
Do they?
Gas stations?
Then I guess it's like a place where a lot of people go in and out all the time.
Do you feel alone walking down a candy aisle? I never feel alone. I feel like someone's in there with me.
I always just assumed it was the cashier watching me, making sure I didn't steal anything.
Could be that. No, I never feel alone or like safe in a gas station.
I never
Especially
feel
the
safe in a
bathrooms.
gas station bathroom, but it's mostly because they're usually scary, gross.
That's true.
There is that gas station that I think is a 7-Eleven now that was the place where they first made the Ouija board.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yep.
So I bet that's haunted. I was in the restroom once and it sounded like a car hit the wall. When I go in the cooler to restock, I'll hear like someone's trying to talk to me from the front of the store. Stuff just falls or flies off shelves. My hair will get brushed. And once I almost tripped. It felt like I had hit a brick while walking. And this one time, a regular came in to buy scratchers. And while I was getting her tickets, we both heard a knock on the windows. Doesn't sound too bad, but it was around the time when riots were happening. So my boss had galvanized plates lining the windows to prevent the smashing of our windows. It was just me and her, and the windows were covered. There's no way we could hear knocking on the glass inside the store.
It's coming from
inside the
calls
house.
coming from inside the house.
Spooky. I can't imagine working a gas station overnight.
At night by yourself. There's
Not
no
only the
way.
like strange people lurking at night that could possibly come and hurt you, but then things
The
like this
paranormal
happening, things flying off of shelves around him.
People that work in gas stations at night and people that work in hotels at night by themselves, strongest people in the world. Who else?
This next one comes from Laura from our Instagram. I did want to tell you about what it was like growing up because we've all had different experiences. I am the youngest girl out of 6 kids, ranging from 2 years apart to 18 years apart. My little brother and I are just over 4 years apart. We bonded and were closer than any of our siblings. The first time I remember something happening was at my brother's, let's call him Jake, 3rd birthday. He had gotten a fire truck for his birthday, and it was motorized and made sounds. I distinctly remember that there were no batteries in it. My brother just kept saying, Grammy is here. And the next thing I knew, I saw an older lady that looked similar to Grammy right next to my brother. The sirens went off like crazy on his little fire truck. That would have been my mom's grandmother. She died before I was born, so I only knew what she looked like in pictures. Since then, we all had odd experiences. Mirrors falling, big shadow heads, missing keys/wallets. My stepfather still to this day refuses to have rocking chairs in the house.
You know what? That's a solid rule. I wish I could have a rocking chair because I love them. Could never have one in my house.
The second it starts rocking on its own.
Ryan said he wants a recliner. I'm on the fence. I don't know how I feel about
I have one
it.
and it has never done anything weird.
Him saying like, Grammy's here. I believe you automatically. You're 3, whatever. You see it fully. I just know.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
wish we could remember that far back and had just like vivid, solid memories.
Me too, because I guarantee there were some weird stories.
I feel like everyone probably has some.
Oh, yeah, same.
As long as it wasn't destructive, that's kind of cool. Like if it wasn't like an evil, like breaking people's legs and stuff, that's a cool story.
Okay, yeah, I mean.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
No one was hurt. No one was
It's just
terrorized. Yeah, hopefully.
This next one comes from Lukas from our email. Sorry this is long, but I just subscribed to your YouTube and wanted to share a story. And sorry in advance for the creeps. In high school, my best friend and I were known for our crazy adventures. There was an ongoing joke amongst our friends where they'd say they're surprised we'd never found a dead body. That might help you understand the kind of shenanigans we'd get into. We loved to scare ourselves. It was one of our favorite pastimes. We'd go hang out in cemeteries and any creepy place we could find. My friend stumbled across a website that had a list of haunted places and stories of encounters. We found a listing for an old hospital that was known to be haunted by a janitor that died there. In the comments, there were directions to get there, so we decided to go check it out. We drove to what was signed as a park. The directions said to park by 3 red barns and walk the path by the lake to get to the hill that the hospital was on. Once we got out of the truck, we found the path and started walking. The directions didn't say which direction of the trail to go on, so we decided left. We began to walk the path and realized we were on the opposite side of the lake we needed to be. As I looked across the lake, I saw the building and pointed it out to my friend. Just then, the overcast sky turned a darker gray. The wind kicked up, and the crows that covered the trees started to call like crazy. I looked at my friend and asked, "Are we really doing this?" They laughed and said, "We drove all the way here. We have to." We made it to the side of the lake and came to the chain link fence that surrounded what was left of the building. Most of it was torn down, but there were still walls and rooms up and a partial stairwell. As we climbed through the fence and began to wander, I noticed an older black man sitting on the stairs. We made eye contact for a second, and he had a stern look on his face. Not mean, but not someone you wanted to mess with. I told my friend he was there as we were walking around to call him. When we looked back, he was gone without a trace. At that point, I was ready to go, but my friend insisted we continue to explore. We made our way into what looked like an old boiler room. I had no interest in being there. As we looked around, I made note of our routes of escape, in case anything wild were to happen.
Me. That is so me.
There was the way that we came, under a fallen wall and a loose path of rubble, or a small window that was at least 7 feet off the ground. We looked around for a bit until I heard rubble starting to fall. I grabbed my friend and said, "We are leaving." I didn't know if the man was coming or if the building was falling, but hanging out was not an option. After we got out, we made it to the fence. There were 4 nuns praying over the building, and one was crying. This was straight out of a horror movie. My friend saw this, and we both ran as fast as we could back to their truck. We sat there for what seemed like an hour in silence, trying to process what we had just saw. I looked at them and asked, "That really happened, right? You saw all of that?" They replied, "No one is ever going to believe us." That was over 20 years ago, and still to this day, I will never forget. Thanks for reading my story, Lukas.
I am so glad I didn't buy those nun caps.
We were almost nuns. So if you're not on video, we are ghosts.
We have these little ghost costumes.
Yeah, I've got a little poncho.
But I sent Macy a picture of just these little nun caps, and I said, "Should we be nuns?"
That would have been very apropos.
Horrible to read as we're sitting here like just looking like nuns. Imagine.
Well, I'm glad they got out of there. It didn't seem, I mean, I guess the man sitting in the stairwell didn't seem evil. He was just like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" You know, like,
Get out of here,
look,
kids.
Like, you
yeah.
don't belong here. Maybe is that like protection? Like these two are in a crumbling, abandoned building? Or was it like, this is my home?
To me, it just feels like that person hangs out there and doesn't really want people there. So he was like, "Hey, I'm going to pop out, let you see me. So maybe you go away." But the nuns, why was one crying? Did that guy just pass away? And they're praying about him, crying for him?
Maybe, but I don't know why one would be crying during their prayers.
Maybe that was like their very good friend, and so they're all praying for that man.
I hope so. Our next one comes from Johnathan. "Hello, just discovered your channel a few days ago, and I'm obsessed. And you're growing so fast, I'm happy to see it. Thank you."
It's scary.
I have miniature panic attacks thinking of the number of people that I don't know who perceive me on a daily basis.
Same. Very much.
But we love you all.
Sometimes I can't think about it. I don't
try
open.
not to. I remove myself from it. Otherwise, it overwhelms me a little because I'm so used to being very hidden, very unknown.
I don't even post on my own personal Instagram. A couple people from Ghosteas have found like my little fitness page or things. I haven't posted on there since January. I'm not perceived by the public.
Yeah, I haven't posted anything on my own personal Instagram in over a year.
Yeah, it's just my personal Instagram, that was 3 years ago. But I just keep it. I don't know why. I can't delete it.
The only reason I have an Instagram is essentially to peruse.
To look at reels and send them to us.
Yes.
Yes, I know.
Sorry. Well, I do have a story for you. If you ever do a video about Ouija board stories, or really just any subscriber story videos, you can use this one.
Let's go.
So this happened back in 2016. I went through my first breakup and I was not doing well for a long time. It started off with this guy that I met on Tinder who was the same age as me. I was 19 and so was he. So I met him and he was cool, I guess. We ended up just being friends, but I knew he had feelings for me and it got complicated because I didn't have any friends at the time. So I kind of just was with him all the time because he had his own place. So I've always been super, super into the paranormal and supernatural. Still am, but now I know to never, ever mess with a Ouija board ever again. This guy I knew was also into the paranormal. I believe he had some stories, but I can't remember. It's been so long ago now, haha. So I suggested to him that I really wanted to try out a Ouija board, and I was super hyped when he said he would do a session with me. So we went to go buy one. We went to Barnes & Noble, LOL, and got one there. So weird.
That's hilarious, going to Barnes & Noble to buy a Ouija board.
The first few times we did it was in his car. Before we did any sessions though, we made sure to take a bunch of steps to ensure our safety, like making our intentions very clear, following all the rules you're supposed to, and how to see the warning signs of something bad trying to communicate with you. So on to the last session that we ever did. Like I said, the first few were in his car at night and nothing really happened. We had the planchette move slightly, but nothing ever came out of it. The next 2 or so and the last were in his apartment. The last session we did, we made sure to have our session the stereotypical way. We had candles in the room surrounding the board in the dark. We also had silver, I believe, to help with protection. So in this last session, we finally communicated with the spirit. I don't think I want to say their name, but I still remember it. That is okay.
I don't want to hear it, so thank you.
I also want to apologize to everyone because in our Gallagher episode, Dr. Gallagher episode, I said the demon's name. I was like, I'm going to say the demon's name, and then immediately said it and did not give anybody enough time. And I'm sorry. I mostly did that because I was kind of freaked out and just wanted to get the name out.
You did say it fast.
Yeah.
I remember hearing you and I was like, oh, okay.
So I apologize. And next time I ever say any name like that, I'm going to give plenty of warning and plenty of time. They explained how they died in a car crash in the early 1900s. I was so stoked about everything. But of course I had my suspicions the whole time and thought my friend was just messing with me. Honestly, he didn't seem that convincing and I would have just written all of this off if it weren't for what happened to him immediately after the session. So after we finished the session, we closed it off, moved the planchette to bye, and said bye. I am just now remembering where I think everything went wrong. So now what I remember is that we communicated with another spirit after that one. But they weren't making sense, so we just said goodbye to it. However, when we tried to say goodbye, we moved the planchette to goodbye, but it slipped off over the edge of the board, and now thinking back, I think that's what went wrong. So it didn't fully close out.
It's like, you're not saying goodbye to me. That is so scary.
You just made it a little scarier.
Well, I mean, that's what's happening.
What happened afterwards is absolutely positively the most supernatural thing I have ever witnessed. I've told my close friends this story before, and I honestly don't know if anyone ever believes me when I tell them, but I swear on my life and everything I know and love that this did absolutely happen. After we closed everything off, my friend started acting kind of weird. I thought he was just messing with me because he was the type of person that was kind of just off in some way, if you know what I mean. He started talking to me and asked me if I wanted to see him do magic. I believe we've talked about witchcraft and things before, so I knew he had some knowledge of it. So I entertained him and was like, sure. So with one of the candles that we were using for the session, he grabbed it, blew out the candle, and put it on top of his dresser. He grabbed the candle again and lifted it up. And this is when it got super weird.
I literally can feel my stomach. I'm about to throw up and I'm not. You haven't even said anything.
Please don't throw up.
I'm just imagining him smiling doing all this.
Just like, hey, you want to see some magic?
See some magic? And he just continues smiling, lifting up the candle and smiling and keeping eye contact.
Oh, that's creepy.
I just want to give everybody my visual.
He grabbed the candle again and lifted it up. And this is when it gets super weird. As he lifted the candle up, the wick completely detached from the candle. It's kind of hard to explain, but when he lifted the candle, the wick was the only thing left, and it was standing straight up and was stuck on a piece of glass from the bottom of the candle. I remember telling him, oh wow, that's really weird. How did the candle do that? And he didn't really say anything. But then he put the candle back on top of it, so the wick and the candle were completely whole again, like nothing ever happened.
Okay.
Excuse me?
It's that TikTok. Witch!
Yeah.
We need to find that and
put
post
it in. Or yeah. He then grabbed the candle and showed it to me. There was nothing wrong with the candle. There was no sign of the wick ever being unattached from the candle. I grabbed it myself and looked at the bottom of the candle where there should have been a hole. but nothing. The weirdest part is that there was a sticker on the bottom of the candle that was completely intact as if nothing ever happened to it. How?
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Okay. I was visibly shocked and was asking him how he did that. All he was doing was telling me, it's magic. And he kept laughing. I kept asking him, saying, no, seriously, how did you do that? And saying things like how that was impossible. The only thing he would respond with for all of my questions was, it's magic. And he would keep laughing every time. It was really creepy. He had energy that was off the whole time I knew him, but this is when it started to get very, very weird. I stupidly still hung out with him every day after this. Eventually, he convinced me to write him checks because he was lying that he was waiting for his card to come in the mail. Very dumb of me. And the checks ended up bouncing and I had $500 stolen from me. We stopped talking after this. Good. And I'm glad it's all over. For an entire year after, I kept having paranormal experiences, nightmares, night terrors, sleep paralysis, all of the above. I was a wreck for a while. And at one point, I thought something was trying to possess me. Anyways, I have more stories, but that was easily the most supernatural thing I've ever witnessed. I still cannot believe what I saw with the candle being lifted. Only the wick, long and black, being stuck on the dresser. Then the candle being put back together. Completely intact with zero signs of it ever being tampered with. I don't know. Super strange. Now, I truly believe that there are supernatural things that can happen that most people don't witness. Or if they do, people will never believe them. And I think I'm one of them. Thank you for reading.
The way this person insists that it is real, I believe you. I would end up smashing that candle. I'd be like, there's no way.
Yeah. I really, really hope that it's some kind of trick candle and he's like actually a magician or something.
Hey.
The fact that it kind of that strangeness, that paranormal aspect of it all followed Johnathan around after that.
That is so scary to me and further makes me feel as though I should never speak to anyone. Because what if you think you find a friend and it's this person that's going to give you paranormal attachments?
Our next story comes from Electronic Girl from email. Hello, I'm an Italian girl who found your channel by chance and is now subscribed to it because I love the chill and cozy feel you create in your podcast. Thank you.
Thanks.
I had a lot of paranormal experiences my whole life. Like a lot. So I decided to share 3 of them today. 1. I don't remember my first experience since, as I said, I had them for all my life since I was a little kid. I'm now 28. However, this one is one of the oldest I can recall. I was 6 or 7 at the time, and it was afternoon, so bright day and sunlight. Me and my younger sister were in our garage, and we were playing with small kittens that my cat had. No one was around at the time in the backyard with us, and my mom was inside the house. We heard footsteps creaking in the backyard. We have that type of backyard with small pebbles as floor, so it creaks as when you're walking on it. We thought it was our mom, but when we went to check, no one was there. We weren't scared because it was during the day, just confused. Puzzled, we went back inside the garage, and that's when we heard something walking on the roof above our heads. The garage is too tall for any animal to jump on top of it, and it couldn't have been a bird because the sound of footsteps were too heavy. It sounded like a large dog was walking on it. Now we were scared, and even the mama cat was looking up frightened. We stayed still, not knowing what to do, and after a minute, it stopped. We heard the mysterious footsteps again a couple of times in the following weeks, but the roof incidents never happened again.
I think the most chilling thing is for me, the cat looking up and being confused.
The cat heard it too, yeah.
Because it's really happening.
The cat and both sisters experienced it.
And you're so vulnerable because you have your cat and all the kittens. It's like, what do you do?
How
do you protect?
Yeah.
Put them all in your shirt and just run with a basket of kittens.
2. The second story happened to me in 2017. It was around midnight.
That's too recent for me. I'm sorry. I'm scared.
It was around midnight and I was ready to go to bed. My sister, I share a room with her, was already in bed sleeping. Our parents weren't home. It was just me and her. For context, I live in the countryside and the houses are all pretty far apart from each other and our garden and backyard are really big, so the neighbors' houses are far from ours. I slid under the covers and after 1 minute, I heard this loud scream coming from right outside the window of our room. It was a woman screaming her lungs out. Her tone seemed somewhere between desperate and furious. It lasted around 4 seconds and then it stopped. I jumped up, sat in my bed, and turned the lights on. I looked in disbelief at my sister, who was also now sitting in her bed, wide awake, and she stared back with the same expression. I said, "Did you hear that too?" And she replied in a whisper, "What was that?" It woke me up. We stared at the window for 5 minutes, too scared to go out and check, waiting to hear something else, but nothing happened. The most weird thing is, we didn't hear anyone approaching the window or walking away from it. Remember, the floor covered in pebbles that creaks loud, and if you walk on it, yeah, that. We decided to turn off the lights again and go back to sleep. However, I wasn't able to sleep until our parents arrived back home. I never believed in banshees before, and I'm still not fully convinced. However, 1 week after this event, our uncle, who was hospitalized, unfortunately died. Was it a coincidence or a warning? We didn't say anything to our parents because they are really skeptical, and we knew they wouldn't have believed us. This is one of our secrets.
That is chilling.
My first thought was like, you know, like we said mountain lions.
I was going to say a cougar.
I don't know if there are cougars or something that sounds similar in Italy.
Yeah, but that happened to us.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes, I do.
Have we talked about it? I think we
Yeah,
have.
we have.
And the fact that it was her and her sister, and they sat up and they're scared, because that exact scenario happened to us.
I know,
and we
I was
just sat there
picturing
going,
us too. And then a week later, their uncle, because we talked about banshees a little bit. And they're like a precursor to death.
Oh, man. I don't know. I
That's
don't really believe
spooky.
in coincidence.
3. As a premise to this, I want to let you know that my house is clearly haunted. The alarm against thieves would go off on its own even when it's not inserted. The whole family hears thumps of objects falling at night, but upon further inspection, nothing has fallen. As a kid, I heard whispers calling my name, my sheets pulled away from my head, warm fingers that ran through my hair, and so on.
The running through the hair, I'm going to need everybody to stop what they're doing immediately and never say that again.
It's almost like a comforting, like
No.
No?
It is not comforting.
We've read some stories where it's like a comforting pat or like a rub, you know, and they felt comforted. What was that? That was a recent story.
Yes, but I hate the running the fingers through the hair. That's worse than like a little tap on the shoulder, or you feel it on your brush
That's
up against your leg.
Intimate.
Oh, if I ever felt that. I'm shaving all of my hair so I never have to feel it again.
But nothing can compare to the sight of the white figure. I saw this figure 3 times in my life. It always moves at a very fast speed from the end of the corridor all the way up to the foyer where the entrance door is. No one in my family has ever seen it except for me. The last time I saw it, everyone was asleep except for me. I was in the kitchen on my sofa scrolling on my phone, facing the foyer with the kitchen door open. Our dog was laying right at the threshold between the kitchen and the foyer. Suddenly, my vision got blurry, similar to when you're really tired and your eyes go foggy, but more intense. I lifted my face from the phone, having the sensation that something was off. Not in a negative way, just neutral off, if that makes sense. As I did that, I caught the white figure passing by as it always did. The dog, who was resting with her eyes closed, also lifted her head and turned it towards the entity. After the figure disappeared, we proceeded to look at each other at the same time, and I kid you not, my dog had this clear, confused look in her big brown eyes, almost as if she was silently asking me what we just witnessed. I believe you.
Oh,
dogs
yes.
communicate with us.
So
for sure.
expressive. My dogs are they'll tell you what they mean with their face.
We looked at each other for some seconds, both confused, and then she went back to rest while I resumed scrolling on my phone. I love that visual. Like, they both suddenly get this feeling. They look up, they see the thing pass by, they look at each other like, you saw that? Okay. And just back to their life.
Same. I love it, but also it makes me feel better that the dog wasn't alerted and
they were just
screaming, barking and freaking out, but they just said, you saw it? All right, cool.
Okay. Maybe it's the fact that I'm so used to paranormal events that they don't scare me that much anymore. I'm just a little bit creeped out. Besides, neither me or someone in my family was ever attacked in any way by the things that haunt our house, so I feel okay living in it with them. I have plenty of paranormal stories like these, even with mimics, so let me know if I should keep spilling the tea. Much love for you and your podcast.
Give us the mimic stories.
Yes.
Please.
Natalie is extremely fearful of those, and we like it.
But I love the stories. I love getting scared and then being sick about it later when I'm alone.
Our next story comes from Lanaya. Hi, new listener here from Australia, but I heard you two asking for listener stories and thought I would share mine. I've watched all of what you have on YouTube and can't wait to see more. I have a small handful of stories that happened to me, but this one I'm going to share with you changed my life. I was a pretty messed up kid growing up. I would have blackout anger issues and was heading down a very dark path. I was heavily medicated, as was the standard in the 90s. Ritalin, lithium, dexamphetamine, Prozac, and probably a bunch more. When my ADHD and behavior issues didn't improve, the doses and types were changed. I ended up getting expelled in my first year of high school, and as a last resort, my parents sent me to a psychiatric boarding school. The dorms were full of kids, girls and boys, who had some serious issues such as pyromaniacs, kleptos, nymphos, drug addicts, suicide risks, and kids like me. So this school, called Rivendell, no elves sadly. So this school is along a river near Sydney, Australia, and all the buildings were really old sandstone, I think from our early colony days. It had a boarded up morgue on the premises and used to be a convalescent hospital for incurable and infectious patients to die peacefully, I believe. The only way in during that time was using the boathouse on the river. This boathouse was a massive sandstone structure with a huge iron gate that is rusted shut and padlocked now for good measure. There was no way this gate was opening or even budging. It probably wouldn't even move if the whole boathouse crumbled around it. I was one of the youngest girls there, so I only shared a dorm with 3 people. but our window looked out toward the river. One night it was storming very bad, like raining sideways bad. We were woken up by the sound of creaking and groaning metal, the unmistakable sound of the massive iron gate opening. We could hear the creaking of metal, the sound of the gravel scraping away as it opens, the clang of the metal bar thing that locks it in place hitting against the bars. We were all glued to the window at this point, peering out and trying to catch a glimpse of the boathouse when the lightning flashed. The rain was too bad though, and we could only see about halfway to the boathouse, but we kept watching. And shortly after, we started seeing this bright golden glow coming up the path. Dozens of figures of people were slowly walking up the path. They were slightly translucent and emitting a golden glow that was so bright that it should have blinded us into the darkness. But we stared at this light with no issues. These figures slowly walked up the winding path towards our building. They were looking down as they walked, and they looked like they didn't have any feet. Like the feet from ankle down were just mist or invisible. They were human looking, but their faces were very strange, almost bird-like. It looked like their faces were shapeable like clay, and someone grabbed the people's faces from the nose and pulled out and down, making a kind of beak shape with their face. None of the figures looked up or acknowledged us at all. I felt like I should be scared, but from the moment of seeing these entities, I felt this strange feeling of perfect calm wash over me. My friends described the same feeling of serenity filling them up after we talked about it. The figures walked up and into our building, and we should have seen them coming down the corridor, but we did not. They had disappeared completely. We went down to the boathouse as soon as we woke up the next morning, and the gate was just as stuck as it usually is. The strange thing is that we were all released shortly after this experience. From that moment on, I had never taken meds again, and I have been so calm and relaxed with no anger issues ever again. I went back to regular school and graduated normally, found friends and work, and never ever had any of those old issues.
That's awesome, but what?
What was that to do that? And like all three of them were released shortly after because they all just had a calm. They were all calmed by these strange figures.
That's amazing, but what is that? I've never heard of something like that.
I don't know, like healers of some kind? Well, years later, after sharing my story with people, someone showed me a plague doctor mask, and it looked strangely familiar to the faces of the entities I saw, but I'm pretty sure those masks were no longer used during Australia's early days, and they were not something that was ever given to patients. Just a weird little side note there that doesn't make any sense to me, but the likeness was too alike for me to not include it. I was thinking that when I first read it.
Plague doctor. I was, but I didn't know if it would sound stupid for me to say that because obviously that's, I don't know, that just doesn't make sense in the story, but that's immediately what I thought of.
Yeah, me too. And so if it's not patients, if they're doctors and they're, I don't know, maybe still healing in the afterlife, and they were like glowing bright, like a bright light that should have blinded them because it was so
that
glowing.
To me is like visitation-y, but how? That puzzles me.
It's very strange.
Someone's gonna know. What is it? Tell us.
Thanks heaps for hearing my story. I can probably include more details if you have any questions. I also have a couple of other paranormal experiences I would love to share involving mystery stairs in the woods or shadow people, or an absolutely terrifying experience that chills me to my core even now.
Stairs in the woods. I told you about that. I wanted to do that, and then someone commented that too.
Yeah, I want to do an episode about that too because I've seen quite a few stories like that, and it intrigues me.
I'm so into it. So if you have any story where you ever experienced something like that,
send it in.
I'm very into that.
Once again, love your podcast and your interactions and your different cute blankets and mugs and sometimes tasty teas. Keep up the good work, Lanaya.
Thank you.
Most times tasty for me.
For you, yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Lanaya. I do want to hear all of your experiences.
Oh, yes, of course.
This next one comes from Alyssa. Hello, ladies. I've recently discovered your podcast and I am loving all of it. I love how real you guys are. Rather than taking an unnecessary theatric approach, I really feel like I'm sitting down with friends exchanging stories. I feel like that's funny because we dressed up today. We've got
a non-theatric.
Black flame candle.
Let me cover up my caped dress, my winged dress.
It's Halloween. I think we get a pass. So naturally, when I realized you guys take listener stories, I felt compelled to share with you. I have lots of stories, but here are a few I feel are worthy of sharing. Here's 3 stories: a scary, a feel-good, and a laugh.
Oh, good.
All 3 of these take place in my home. My husband and I bought our first home in 2020. It was a fixer-upper, but that gave us a chance to make it ours. I'm a Christian and find solace in Jesus often. It's customary for me when I move to a new place to ask God to protect my home and cast out all things dark, evil, and unholy. I've always found comfort in doing this and believe it works after some truly terrifying run-ins with some very dark entities I had as a child. Stories for another day if it interests you. Yes.
Hey, I believe that works because anytime in our old house, like that we grew up in, if I had a scary experience, I would start praying and I'd be like, help me feel safe, help me feel safe. And there were times where I would immediately just feel like a
Peace.
calm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm fine. And I could go to sleep.
Me too. That's what helps me too is I pray and then find my holy relics. I said this little prayer when we moved into our home, and I have no reason to believe the house itself is haunted. But there have been some instances worth noting. Number 1, my husband and I shared 2 sides of the same dark dream. As I already said, I'm a Christian and very strong in my faith. My husband, on the other hand, is unsure of his beliefs and is kind of a blank slate. I've never been the type to push my religion on others and rather hope that living by example might intrigue him to get to know Jesus too. That's how I live my life.
I was about to say that's you.
I'm never going to push my religion on you. If you agree with me, great. If you don't, great. You know, I'm just going to live my life how I do and try to be a good person.
I was literally going to say like us.
Well, one night we were asleep and I had the most horrible nightmare. We were in a very large dark house I didn't recognize and I didn't feel welcome. I couldn't hear him talking on the other side of the room and tried to get close to him. But before I could, someone, I couldn't tell who, a dark figure, put their arm around him and led him to the next room. My husband is a lighthearted, jovial man who has no fear of anything. He's quite literally the type to follow a scary figure off into the distance for the sake of conversation. I tried to call out to him, but my voice was lost, as if it had been funneled and channeled away, like trying to speak without any air in your lungs. I could hear myself trying to call to him, but he didn't respond to me. Next, I heard a kind of voice from behind me, a hand on my arm that felt comforting. The voice said, "You need to get him out of here. He is in danger." The closer I tried to get to him, the farther he got. Out of sight, out of the room. The more I fought to get with him, the harder the figure with him fought to pull him away. At one point, I finally got my hand in my husband's, only for the thing to pull at his other arm. I jolted awake. I woke up my husband in a panic, hoping he would hold me. I'm prone to nightmares, but this felt different. When I woke him, he told me he was having the strangest dream, quote, "In a creepy old mansion. A weird man was there and wanted me to go down into the basement with him, but you interrupted."
This is like Insidious.
You bringing that name into this conversation just made me sick. I believe my husband was experiencing spiritual warfare and something that was trying to take his soul. He prayed with me that night and we never experienced that again.
You did not have to add that last part. You could have omitted that.
Something trying to take his soul into darkness, down into the basement.
Were they dreaming or was this actually happening?
On a spiritual level, like, I don't know. I mean, we obviously believe that something spiritual happens in some of our dreams. Not all of them, obviously, because like watching pencils get up and walk away isn't particularly spiritual. But, you know, things like that, especially with shared. It was the exact same thing.
That we talked about shared dreams. I still can't
wrap your head around it.
Yes.
It's just so amazing to me.
It is amazing to me, but that one, that's going to be one of those ones that's going to stick with me.
Number 2. This one is way lighter, I promise. On New Year's Eve a few years back, I had a very cool experience. I have PTSD from past trauma and unfortunately have panic attacks from time to time. I'm very sorry. That night, I unfortunately had an experience that led to a flashback and a pretty bad panic attack that had me bedbound. I was crying with my head under a pillow. My husband was comforting me. We had a friend of mine living with us at the time in our spare room. I felt her into the room, still with my head buried, and she put her hand lovingly on my back. I heard her ask my husband if I was okay, and she began stroking my hair. I felt loved, and it helped to pull me back to reality. When I had the strength to look up a few minutes later, it was just my husband, service dog, and I in the room. I asked where my friend had gone so I could apologize as I was embarrassed, to which my husband replied, "She's asleep in the other room. I don't think she even knows we were having a panic attack." It was then that I realized that I was holding on to a sarong I had on my bed. It was supposed to be a gift for my best friend for being my maid of honor, but she passed right before our wedding in 2020. My husband never heard or saw anything, but it was so real to me that I thought it was my living friend in physical presence. It was just my bestie supporting me despite the long distance between us.
That's actually going to make me cry.
I know.
That is
I'm feeling tears well up.
beautiful. Oh, I don't want to cry on this episode.
And she was holding that. It was like her connection to her. She like called her forth for help.
Oh, no.
That was beautiful. Number 3. Some friends of ours came to stay with us recently. Same house. It was our first time hosting guests in our house. They put their little one down for the night in the spare bedroom and were chatting with us. The conversation led to ghost stories, and I could tell our friend Dylan was getting quite nervous. He was getting freaked out, as we do. He kept looking over into our hallway nervously. Finally, he said, "We need to get out of here. I hate to tell you, but your house is haunted. There is a black figure darting up and down your hallway. Normally, this would freak me out as I've experienced similar things in the past, but not this home, not this paradise I was building." I assured him I've prayed over this house and haven't had any negative experiences. He settled for a few minutes before jumping up again and shouting, "There it is! It's taunting us!" I looked where he pointed. My black cat, Charlie, was having the zoomies in the hallway. We still laugh about it.
I knew it was a cat. I was going to say it's the cat. It has to be the cat.
It was Charlie.
But imagine the fear.
He was like, "We gotta get out of here. I'm going to get my baby."
So valid. That's so valid.
I don't blame him.
Oh my gosh. I like that we ended on that one with this little
three-parter.
stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope these stories are fun to read. Thank you for reading if you get this far. Keep up the amazing videos. Enthusiastically, Alyssa. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
These were great.
I love the way it was structured too.
Me too.
It made me feel safe at the end.
At ease. Yeah. So our next email comes from Anna. "Hi, Natalie and Macy. My name is Anna, and I have recently found your podcast. I love it and listen on every car ride, which may not be the best idea, but what can I say? Anyways, I wanted to share my one paranormal experience. I think it would be super interesting if you did an episode with just listener write-ins.
Here we are.
This, to date, is my only paranormal experience or strange experience, but I've never shared it with anyone other than the people that were involved. I'm currently 18, but this happened when I was somewhere around 10 or 11, no older than 12. My younger sister also remembers it, but she was only 8 or so. My dad had been dating this woman, Becca, for a year now. Becca had 2 daughters, Eva and Ella, who were the same age as my sister and I. One notable thing is that most, if not all, of Becca's close family was dead. Her sister had committed suicide, and both of her parents died not long after, within months to a year from each other. She still suffered greatly from this and was not always the most rational about it. Anyways, we had been over at Becca's for the afternoon, my dad working outside. Eva, Ella, my sister, and I were sitting in the living room. The daughters had invited a friend over. I had never met the girl, but she seemed relatively normal. She was around 10 and she had brought a Ouija board. She claimed to have bought it in a thrift store. That is just worse. Like, what is attached to it?
I was just about to say the same thing.
Anyway, she bought it from a thrift store just the day before and excitedly set it up and made us play. Being young, none of us had any deceased friends or really even close relatives to talk to, so we invited Becca to join. She hesitated at first, then decided to try and talk to her mom. I was quite skeptical. I firmly believed that it was the unconscious movements of the players. We began playing and shortly after found ourselves talking to Becca's mother. The questions we asked were simple at first. Eventually, Becca started asking questions about her childhood, which Eva and Ella had not known the answers to, as they were mostly little inconsequential details. The board answered them correctly, every time. This may seem normal, but Becca did not have her hand on the planchette. It was only Eva, Ella, and the friend. None of them had been alive when the events in question had occurred, but somehow, Becca's mom went into great detail, and Becca began to actually cry. It only escalated from there. Becca had told us that her mother died from an infection after a routine dental operation gone wrong. Becca, still in some shock since the death had only happened a few years ago, wanted answers. She began asking about the night her mother died. The board, still operated by only her daughters and the friend, started to explain that the dental workers had broken into the mother's house and murdered her in cold blood.
What?
Becca was a mess at this point, fully believing every word that the board spelled out. So they sensed her weakness and her sadness.
And just went in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
I was scared. I did not believe the board, but there was something so eerie about seeing a 45-year-old woman in tears as this board detailed her mother's supposed murder, which there was quite literally no physical evidence of in real life. Becca promised the board that she would not rest and would continue to get her mom justice. By this time, 4 to 5 hours had passed without notice.
Oh my, so they just lost time. We were deep in it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My dad became angry because we had planned to go to dinner and Becca refused to leave the board. We closed the session and our dad dragged us home. That was the last time we ever saw the 3 of them. And a few days later, my dad told us that he had ended the relationship due to, quote, mental instability and paranoia.
Oh my goodness.
What really upsets me and is ingrained in my mind to this day is the dreams I had after coming home that night. I dreamt of the board, but not in a terrifying way. Almost like I was being convinced to play again. Something about the dream felt odd. I woke up panicked at the intense draw I had to play the game and ran to my dad's bed where I slept for the rest of the night. He said that it was strange since I was 11 and hadn't done that in years. However, it was all brushed off and we went about our lives. I will never forget that night and the dreams I had after.
That's probably up there with like one of the saddest ones we've ever read. That is horrible.
It was like preying on her. So much so that she refused to leave the board after 5 hours wouldn't go to dinner, lost her relationship with her over a year-long relationship with a man.
That's
dark.
So dark. And
then it came to Anna in the dream.
like,
It
keep
was
playing.
Keep playing, yeah. Come back and play.
I feel sick. Don't play with Ouija boards, guys.
Our next email comes from Lee. Hi, my name is Lee. I'm 19 years old. I live in Hickory, North Carolina, and recently had the most terrifying paranormal experience that I realized was connected to my past, and I'd love to share this with you too, as I've been watching your YouTube religiously ever since I found it. Y'all scare me at night though, so I had to take a break from watching at night, lol. I don't blame you.
Say.
I hate editing at night. I'm like looking over my shoulder. Anyways, love you guys and what you do. You are more than welcome to share my story. I'd love to see it on your channel. You are my go-to entertainment. On to the stories.
Thank you. Here we go.
The past. I stayed with my grandparents a lot throughout my childhood. They had a nicely sized, all-wood log cabin. I always felt kind of nervous when I was there alone or just in the house by myself. But there was one room in particular that always gave me the spooks. It was the downstairs bathroom that was connected to the bedroom by a closet. Pretty cool, but also kind of scary. It was one of those bathrooms that when you shower, you cannot close your eyes because of how on edge you get. You know.
I don't close my eyes in any shower, but yeah.
So anyway, it doesn't matter where. So when I was about 6 or 7, I was staying there like normal. I had taken a shower in the bathroom, brushed my teeth, did my hair, all the stuff. I felt fine and everything seemed normal. My mom happened to be staying the night there too because I begged her to stay for a sleepover. She never liked staying there and I never knew why until this night. I woke up in the middle of the night, which was abnormal for me because I was notoriously known that since birth, I normally slept through the night. It was around 3:30 a.m. I needed to go to the bathroom. To this day, I still don't know why I needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't need to pee or anything. I just needed to go to the bathroom. So I did. Instead of going through my closet, I went all the way around, into the living room, around the stairs, through the kitchen. When I opened the door, there was a huge black spot in the corner near the toilet.
No.
As my eyes adjusted, I saw the outlines of what seemed to be a man. I wasn't scared or anything until it turned completely around and froze when it saw me. My heart started to beat out of my chest, and I got so sweaty I could feel the beads rolling down my forehead. It then opened its mouth like a snake, unhinged its jaw. This is when I screamed so loud that I thought for sure everyone had heard me. I ran through the kitchen and living room and up the stairs to my grandparents' room. I was screaming, "There's a man with a long mouth in the bathroom!" Screaming, crying, snotting, shaking, you name it. My papa, the fearless man he is, ran downstairs and grabbed a knife from the kitchen and looked into the bathroom, and there was nothing. After the whole thing, I asked them if they heard me scream, and they said no, which is really weird because of how loud I was. They are very light sleepers and would have definitely woken up. Once I got back into my bedroom, I saw my mom on the other bed, sitting straight up, crying and shaking. My Nana rushed to her and kind of cradled her, asking if she was okay. She said, "I heard Lee scream upstairs. I got out of bed to go get her, and I heard chains going up and down the stairs. I went out anyway, and there was a man at the top of the stairs with his mouth wide open, staring at me, and I screamed for everyone and no one came. I ran back into the room and heard the chains again. I sat on the bed trying to calm myself down to go back out there, and then I heard a whisper yell from the bathroom saying, 'Not you, her.' After that, we all got calmed down and relaxed again, which took an extremely long time. We all went back to bed in my Nana's room. I slept with my Nana and Papa, and my mom slept on the daybed in her room, and nothing like that happened again. My mom also never stayed there again. Not you, her.
What does that mean?
Nothing good. It can be nothing good in my mind. Moving on to the present.
I have no thoughts that can, I can't form a sentence.
We moved into the house that I'm currently living in about 6 or 7 months ago. I staged the house once before everything was moved in and once after. And I've never had weird feelings unless I was by myself at night. And that's just a me thing. I was up late.
I feel like I need to close my eyes and curl up in a ball. I'm so
frightened.
I'm really
shaken.
scared right now. Yeah.
I was up late 3 nights ago and I was really hungry. So I decided to go downstairs and make something to snack on while I journaled. The only lights that were on were the ones that I was currently using, so the kitchen. When I was done, I turned off the light, walked down the hallway, and made my way to the bottom of the stairs. The room lights were off, so I immediately started freaking out because I knew they were on when I left. Plus, that's my safe haven. So now I'm scared because there are 0 lights on. I start heading up the stairs, and when I look up, I see the same man with his mouth open at the top of my stairs. I screamed so loud and I dropped my noodles all over the carpet. I ran back down the few stairs I'd made it up and turned on the living room light. There was nothing there when I looked back. I turned on all the surrounding lights and cleaned up the ramen. Put everything up in the kitchen and ran back upstairs and turned all of my lights on, shut my closet doors, covered up my window with a blanket and covered my mirror. I do that every night, by the way. I calm myself down finally with some YouTube. Not you guys because, well, I don't blame you at all. And I finally went to bed. That was a few days ago, and it scared me so bad, and I still get a little scary feeling every now and then, but I don't feel any energies. The next morning, I asked my mom if she heard me scream the night before. She told me no, and I told her what happened. She froze in complete fear after I told her, tears filling her eyes as she started to cry. She told me, I never thought I'd see or hear about him again. I have constant recurring nightmares about that night, and I'll never forget hearing that whisper. My final thoughts are, has this thing been following me very silently for years? Or is it just in my head? What did it mean by not you, her? And why did nobody but my mom hear me scream? Why did nobody hear my mom scream? And why didn't my mom hear my scream upstairs when I screamed downstairs? Truly terrified, and will be keeping the lights on at all times. I even bought a lava lamp to have next to my bed. P.S. Stay awesome and don't get haunted. Lee.
After telling us that, you don't get haunted.
All the same questions. Why? How? What? Who? Why? Why couldn't they hear the screams?
What is it?
It was like Alyssa where she spoke, but it wasn't like going to, it was like funneled in a different direction.
I don't know. I feel so scared that like my fingers are kind of tingling.
Just
I don't know.
The way its jaw unhinged. What is it? Is it a spirit? Is it a demon? What kind of, because it's obviously not kind.
The chains rattling? What is that?
That the chains really scare me too. Because where was it tied up? You know? Like,
and how did it
get out?
My feet hurt. Why do my feet hurt hearing that?
I don't know.
I just don't feel great. I'm genuinely scared. I don't think yeah.
Happy Halloween, man.
That's not a good one. That's not a good one for me.
Our next email comes from Ashleigh. I have a very scary personal paranormal story that happened to me a couple years back. I had been staying at my aunt's house in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina when this happened. I stayed there quite often growing up and had always had the weird, uneasy feeling at night there, but always chalked it up to being because it was a bigger multi-story house than what I was used to. Anyway, it was Easter break. I was in 9th or 10th grade, I believe, and it was the last night before going home in the morning. To give a little layout of the house, stepping in the front door was the living room, sewing room, and immediately to the left, walking down a short hallway, was the door to the garage. And to the right of the door are stairs that go up to a single bedroom/bath that sits above the garage. There's no door to separate the bedroom from the stairs, just opens up into the bathroom on the right. Directly across from the stairs was my aunt and uncle's bedroom, and to the right of that, across from the garage, and to the left of the living room was the kitchen. Now, if you went to the right in the home, you'd be welcomed by a small hallway with a bedroom on each end and a bathroom in between. Not a Jack and Jill. I had the bedroom on the right, and my brothers and cousins had the room on the left and the upstairs room. My bedroom was set up with the door on the far left wall with a double door closet directly next to it. On the back wall was a bedside table with a lamp, my bed, and another bedside table with a lamp. And across from the bed was a dresser with a huge mirror attached.
Oh, no.
Pretty standard bedroom,
Oh,
TBH.
no.
Not the mirror. Again, it was the night before going home, and I had been staying up on my phone, doing who knows what. And typically, when I'd stay here, I would sleep with the lamps on their dim setting, so all the while this story is being told, keep in mind that room is lit up a good amount. Time was rolling until I realized it was about 2 to 3 a.m. and decided it would be a good time to head to bed since we were leaving to go home in the morning. Right as I was going to put my phone down, I decided I had to pee. So instead of just closing my eyes and going to sleep, I began to roll onto my back. I had been laying on my side facing the closet. But when I got about halfway there, I jumped out of bed faster than I've ever moved in my life. Why, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. When I began rolling onto my back about halfway there, I saw what looked to be an old man crawling up the foot of my bed towards me. He looked to be in his 60s, maybe 70s. He was wearing sun-bleached, worn-out blue jeans and a red and black tattered plaid long-sleeve shirt with the sleeves pushed up to his elbows. He had white, thin yet still somehow thick hair and a wiry white beard. But of course, as soon as I saw this, I jumped out of bed faster than I think I've ever moved before and since, and immediately turned on the overhead light. But as soon as I turned my back, the man was gone. So I ripped all the sheets and blankets off my bed, was frantically looking under the bed, in the closet, in my dresser drawers, just anywhere this man could have gone. Needing to pee, though, had not been forgotten. So after about 10 minutes of contemplating whether or not to leave my room, I left, went pee, and came back all in about 45 seconds. The bathroom was 5 feet from my bedroom, and literally hurtled myself onto bed and under the blankets, where I laid for about 15 minutes before poking my head out. When I saw the room was empty and there was no old man, I turned off the big light, keeping on the dim yet still bright bedside lamps, and tried to go to sleep. Not even a few minutes later, I felt the mattress behind me. I was laying on my side facing the closet again, dip down as if someone was laying there. Now, I don't know if you've ever felt that feeling when you know somebody is nearby, but they haven't made their presence known yet, or something like that, but your skin begins to crawl and burn, sort of. Yeah, well, my back was going crazy with that crawling, burning sensation. Not really wanting to, but also not really having a choice, I whipped my head around, and behind me, under the same blanket I was laying in, was the same old man, and he was just staring at me. Never had I been so scared in my life. I once again jumped out of bed, turning on the big light, and after once again seeing that he had completely disappeared, didn't know what to do, so I just laid there all night on my back, petrified that he was going to sneak up behind me again.
I'm literally crying.
The next morning when we met at McDonald's with my mom to go home, I told her about what happened, and she told me to tell my aunt. So I did, but when I told her, she didn't believe me at all. Regardless, I haven't gone back but one time since, and when I did, I only stayed one night. My little brother has also said that when he'd sleep upstairs, he'd have nightmares of an old, mean man on the stairs that would yell at him to watch out and come down these stairs. He'd say sometimes he has a knife, and other times he has a lantern. Truly freaked me the hell out, and I've never had an experience like it since. However, I do have many other paranormal stories from my childhood home as well. Yikes.
Oh my God.
I knew that one would get you because of the crawling up the bed, and then he returned, and it's just, you're not safe.
And it's an old dude. You know how I feel.
I do.
They're supposed to be nice. I'm sorry, I don't have more commentary. I'm just sick.
Yeah.
My eyes literally were just pouring.
It's creepy that he was yelling at the boy and trying to sleep in the room with the girl.
I can handle the yelling and I can handle the dream. I
Was
can't
that his
handle the room. I can't. Crawling up the bed. Oh, that's actually going to make me gag.
From the foot of her bed.
Mm-mm.
That was a good one.
I just need to close my eyes. I don't know.
Well, we still have two more.
Oh no. Okay.
If you're willing.
I'm willing. I don't want to read them, but I'll listen to them. I lied at the beginning of this episode.
Okay.
I said I was going to read. Yeah, I don't want to read.
Okay, that's fine. So as I said, I picked these solely from the subject line. So these are my blind reactions. This one's subject says, story submission, reader discretion advised. Seriously, it's scary.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm so sorry, everybody. I hope you're not watching at night.
I am.
I
It
hope
is
everyone
night
else
right
isn't.
now.
Yeah,
I won't
it's like
watch this.
midnight right now.
I won't watch this later, but
Okay.
I'm experiencing it now.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay, let's go.
I'm not, but I am.
I know. Let's go.
I'm sorry you feel this way.
I need to
guess.
lock. I'm locked in. I can't look at you.
Okay. Hello, Ghosties. I love your podcast and YouTube. I am messaging in to tell you my very own experience. Sorry in advance for the scary things I will describe. Let me start off by saying I grew up in a haunted house. We lived in Romeoville, Illinois when I was 7 years old, and I moved out at 19 years old. I have already been told I'm very sensitive. I can see and hear the paranormal, but I am unable to communicate with them. Terrifying, I know, but I work with Lauren, a psychic, and I now have the protection methods for myself. Only took 10 years, lol. Now, I didn't know I was this way until about 15 years old. This is just to keep in mind as I'm not exaggerating anything. We moved to Autumn Woods Lane, spooky enough, in 2001. And ever since we lived there, things just were chaos. I'll list things to make it more simple. First, things like keys missing or doors being left open or lights being left on happened. And since I'm an only child living with my father, he had full custody, I was always being blamed. Over the next few years, until I got into high school, things just slowly escalated. Side note, I had a childhood cat who was majorly obsessed with being by my side. Everyone always said he was like a puppy or a baby that I'd never get rid of. This is important. His name was Louis Vuitton, aka Louis, aka Lucifer, lol. Not anything like the devil.
That's so cute.
When I think of Lucifer, honestly, I think of the cat from Cinderella.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
The more iconic Lucifer.
The Cinderella cat. Oh my God.
I remember so clearly when I truly started seeing things. I was on my last week of summer break before my sophomore year. I had been reading on my bed. Louis suddenly stopped cuddling me, jumped off the bed, and sat right in my doorway and stared across the hallway to my parents' room. He just started growling. My cat was growling. I had never heard him growl like this, and it was startling. I got off the bed and went to look, calling his name, thinking maybe our dog came up without permission. I looked down at Louis, then up at what he was stuck on. Once I saw it, I couldn't move. I don't know if it was fear or if I was being held there by it, but I couldn't believe my eyes. I've already got chills. I don't even know what this is. It was a huge, oversized, dark, hunched over black shadow. It barely fit into the doorway. Large arms with 3 claws that curled and large feet. It growled, and that sounded like a lion's low growl or a T-Rex opening its mouth gurgling. My hair stood on end, and my cat stood up hunchback and hissed at it. Then it disappeared. I could now move, and I went and picked up my cat and ran downstairs. My room was the closest to it. I tried to explain to my dad what happened, but of course, fell on deaf ears. I'm so sorry. That is frightening. The cat saw it. And was on alert, like hissing and growling at it.
I can't handle that.
Things from there only got worse. I saw it more often and experienced random scratches in areas my cat would not get to me, being pushed down the stairs, voices, hair pulling, door slamming, children giggling, water turning on by itself, pets passing suddenly, constant sickness, our garage door open and closing on its own. Bear in mind, I was left home alone a lot, and my parents, to my knowledge at that time, hadn't experienced anything.
That's really sad and horrible.
Then one morning, my dad was leaving for work after I was already at school. I got a call from the office to come down, and my dad had called in and was screaming at me, asked me if I thought pranks were funny. Confused, I asked what he means. When I say every door, I mean every door, including the heavy doors and sliding doors, were open. Cabinets and pantry, all the doors were open. This happened several times, and my stepmom said they were getting a security camera after me still saying it wasn't me.
That is so insane. I can't imagine that feeling of being like, no, I didn't do it, and nobody believes you. Because, of course, as a parent, if you're not experiencing anything, you're like,
it's got to be my kid.
It was you. Like, the only other person.
And it stopped until Halloween.
Oh, no.
The morning of, I went to a friend's house, and my dad was sick, and my stepmom called off. She knows I set the alarm, came with security. She heard me say bye and the beeping of its alarm. She had went downstairs after a while. She screamed my dad's name. He got up sluggish and was in disbelief at what he saw. All doors opened and the alarm never went off. And the security camera only showed all the doors ripping open, no noise. They have video proof of this.
Where's the video?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my God.
They believed me. My dad was still on the fence. He is a Marine. And even though it started to happen around him, very minor, he still brushed it off. That same year, he was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, and told he would not live past the age of 39. He is still alive and well, and his MS is in remission. Not cured completely, but he is all good and just turned 50. That is so exciting.
That's awesome. I thought it was about to be a really sad story.
I know. I was like, where is this going? But I'm so happy for you and your family.
Oh my gosh.
My stepmom and I had sat down and confessed that we experienced things. She got dragged out of her bed just a few days ago and could not sleep. Things picked up. One day, my dad asked me to bring him his dry cleaning and the stack of folded towels upstairs to him. I never went into my parents' room. Anytime I had, I immediately got pain in my stomach and felt horribly sick. But what's direly important was never going into their closet.
It's always the closet.
I physically could not. The same way I froze before was what happened if I tried to go into their closet. My dad was in the back of the closet and gestured for me to come in, and I said I can't. I was sweating and ready to vomit and couldn't move. Well, being impatient, my dad yanked me, and when he did, I was flung back and rolled over the bed and landed on the other side. I don't remember much after, but I do remember running to my room, my cat chasing me. My dad got his final experience as well. I was coming home, and 3 houses down when I heard my father screaming my name. 3 houses down, yes. Well, he was like loud. I bolted and opened the front door. He was screaming from the closet to the crawl space. I went to the door and it refused to open. It was as if someone else was sitting on the other side of the door holding the handle so I couldn't turn it and holding the door so I couldn't open it. I finally just yelled to let go and the door flung open, and just as I had opened the door, my dad had figured out how to get out of the crawl space. I had never seen such an intense fear on his face ever in my life, and his face was red. When I asked him what happened, he told me he didn't want to talk about it. Whole right side of my body, just the right side of my body is like waves.
He didn't want
chills.
to talk about it. You know,
Do you blame him?
No, but you know it's something paranormal.
Something he can't explain.
Oh God. Yeah.
I don't like doing this without knowing what's happening. I feel so much suspense. A couple days later, my stepmom told me he had finally broke down to her. He was taking the Christmas decorations into the crawl space and putting them away as per what she wanted. Now, an important thing to note about the crawl space is that it's a large square area and it's not like a regular basement. You have to literally get on your hands and knees and crawl, and it's mostly made out of gravel. Some people decided to pave or put fake grass down there, but we didn't, so it was just gravel. Another factor is there's a big wooden piece in the closet flooring that you have to lift up to get down into the crawl space, and that takes 2 people, and barely me and my dad could do it together. It was just so heavy. So my dad had explained that he got down into the crawl space after I'd helped him that morning. He had been putting it off all day, and right when I was coming home is, I guess, when he decided to put it away. He said that he brought everything down. He got on his hands and knees and dragged everything to the far corner, turned on both lights in the middle of the flooring. Then when he was done, he went to turn around and start heading back to where the cutout in the floor was. Just then, he heard the platform to the floor cutout fall down and it fell right into place. When that happened, the lighting completely went out. Our crawl space doesn't have any windows. It is completely cemented walls. He was just stuck in pitch black spacing. He told me he was mad at himself because he didn't bring his cell phone with him. So being a Marine, he knew exactly where he needed to go, which is diagonal from where he was. So he started to move, and as he got about 2 paces in, he explained that he felt as though he was being watched and hunted. My dad was a sniper in the Marines, and he had only ever felt this when he felt he was in intense danger. All of a sudden, he heard the same growling that I had heard, and he had booked it to the platform, and at that point, he had started yelling for me. He couldn't lift the platform on his own. Even in high adrenaline, he still couldn't lift it. It was as if added weight was put on it. And when he heard me say, "Let go," all of a sudden, it was light as a feather. He got out, and I'd opened the door. Hunted.
Oh, good God.
It was in that moment that we had decided as a family we would have to call a priest. I don't blame you at all. We had 2 separate priests deny us mid-service, saying that this is not something they could handle, and suggested we find either a shaman of high rank or a voodoo priest.
Oh my God.
It was just something so strange, I guess.
That would make me feel so much more uneasy that the priests are like, good luck.
Like, this is your wheelhouse.
Are you supposed to do this?
We then did bring in a local shaman. In the meantime, we did some research and found out that the owner of the home had passed away in the house before us, and she was an elderly lady who was fighting cancer. Our house was only approximately about 10 years old from when I had turned 7. To this day, I still don't feel that she was the one in the house ever.
Definitely not. That doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just looking at my house.
That like predates the house or something, especially if you need a shaman to come and like bless your home and take away whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's something ancient and evil.
Are continuing to water. This is not good.
Now things have taken a really crazy turn from here. In lieu of our research, we found out that our house was part of the main property of ranchers that used to be there before the land was mucked up and everything. That entire ranching family had died right where our house was built. It was approximately 10 members of the family, 2 of them being children.
Oh no.
When we had the local shaman come in and do a cleansing, he was thrown down our stairs backwards in front of my father halfway through the cleansing. He had turned around to us and said this is beyond him or a voodoo priest. He would suggest seeking out a demonologist.
Yeah, just call your local demonologist. This is in the yellow pages. What do you mean?
You have to find somebody.
You have to move.
If you've ever heard of the show Dead Files and you know the medium Amy, before her career took off, she actually came to our house with a demonologist. She was the person that had said I was highly sensitive and felt that if I stayed here any longer, I probably would have died in the house. To hear that must have been so scary for the whole family.
Oh, it would have ruined me. It's ruining me now, and I don't even know these people.
Also, uncovered through my stepmom's found love of thrift shopping, she had picked up this black box. No. It had antique golden etching on it, and it was new news to us that she had brought it into our house nearly a week after we've lived there already. The minimal activity in the house was due to the rancher family, but when it picked up is when she brought the box to the house. The demonologist had worked so hard to even get into the closet space to find the box. Nobody knew where it was, not even my stepmom. The house would have to have several cleansings, several months, for years. I had finally had enough and moved to where my biological mom was and actually got to learn about my sister that I had no contact with for 15 years. My parents couldn't stay there anymore and ended up selling the house. They ended up having a voodoo priest come in and actually bind the house to the earth in hopes that it would prevent the new people moving in from experiencing any sort of paranormal activity. I don't know if that family is still there. I would assume so, but we left everything in that house, bed, furniture, and everything. It was a fully furnished house.
Hey.
They were just like, I'm out.
Agreed.
Is that something you have to relay to people before? Like, hey, this house is like seriously
not
demonically
legally
haunted.
Not legally, no.
I feel like it should be.
After a certain point, legally, you don't even have to disclose if a person died there.
Yeah, I'm about to Google this.
No realtor's going to tell you that because they're trying to sell the house.
If you ask, maybe.
Unless you walk up and say, hey, we want a haunted house.
Ooh, all right. This is from AL.com, so I don't know. The real estate website Zillow recently did a quick review and found that only 4 states specifically mention, quote, paranormal activity in disclosure laws. New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Minnesota, and only 2 of those require disclosure.
Whoa.
So there are disclosure laws for hauntings, paranormal activity.
I would never believe that could be a thing.
So if you're in one of those 4 states, maybe you should ask.
I don't know, but I
Sorry,
feel
our
like I
side
just
tangent.
need to put a paper bag over my head. I just can't
Like
see anymore.
Chester's dad from Fairly Odd Parents.
Yes, Bucky McBadbat.
Yes.
That's how I feel. I have to hide.
Okay.
But my butt and legs are starting to hurt from being curled up so long.
I'm sorry.
I just gotta hide my face.
This is a really scary episode.
It really is.
The paranormal stories don't stop there. My experiences didn't stop there, and to this day, I still experience a lot of things. One thing I'd like you to know is that my childhood cat had passed away at the age of 21. That's so
Aw.
sad, but
But
he
it's a
lived a long
long
life. He was a purebred Devon Rex, and those breeds only tend to live about 18 years. When he turned 18, my parents had moved into their mansion. It was the biggest house I'd ever seen, and that house was also haunted. The previous owner of that house had went to an auction and bought several real Native American Battle War artifacts. He couldn't handle the supernatural activity in the house and sold it without doing anything about the issues. How do your parents find 2 severely haunted houses?
I don't know, and what a tragic way to be haunted.
My cat passed away when I moved back home. I was able to help settle the paranormal activity going on in the house and gained a very spiritual friend in the process. They actually weren't very harmful, the Native American spirits that were there. They were grateful for the artifacts being turned into the Native American tribe. I did it out of respect. We also did offer the land offerings, and we didn't have any problems from that point. I love that. They just wanted to be returned to their people.
I was going to say, what are we doing with it? Like, are we gonna take it where it should go? Are we keeping it? Thank God. Okay.
My childhood cat has stayed with me. I have his ashes. I see his spirit around me every so often. I have 3 cats now, and they all play with him. That's so cute. 3 episodes in a row with phantom cats.
Ugh, I love.
As of recently, my female cat, who I call Moo, aka Moony, is always glued to my hip and does almost exact things that he does. And as of late, I have not been able to see his shadow or spirit. So I'm not sure if he's passed on the baton, but I'd like to think he did.
So cute.
I have many other encounters and even one that is close to home. I feel like all of these are.
I was going to say, is this not close to home?
I also have a lot of things explained to me from the psychic, and I don't know if I'd be alive still without her guidance. I'm very grateful. On a serious note, if anybody is wondering for their own peace of mind, God is real. You have to experience that for yourself. My words are not enough. I cannot tell you enough. I am grateful for the ability to see what I see now. It may not have been in the beginning, but I'm also thankful to have the peace that I was able to acquire. Let me know if you'd like me to send in my other experiences. I'm sure this will not be the end of it. Thank you for reading and listening. And honestly, sitting there with this experience, it is very traumatic to remember, but it becomes less of a weight when you get to share it with people who understand. With love, Moony.
Wow.
What a ride.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I've lost words these last couple stories. I'm just scared.
I'm just like getting pounded, like more hits after hits of just full on terror.
Yeah. It's not good. I mean, it's great, but it's not good.
I would like to hear more from Moony though. Like the way that they see spirits and how they use their abilities.
I would too. I agree.
Yeah. So if you're listening, thank you so much. And please, yes. Also, love the subject line. And that's why you got pushed to the beginning. Okay. Our last story.
Oh, God.
And I chose this one because the subject line is, sorry, Natalie, listener write in and update.
All right. I think I just need to go under the blanket. Would y'all hate me?
No.
If I just hid? I'm being so serious.
As long as you speak every now and then so we know you're still awake.
Okay.
Hey, Macy and Natalie, I recently found your pod and I love to listen while I crochet, so I thought I'd finally contribute a few of my more memorable experiences. Sorry in advance for making you feel ill, Natalie.
Thanks.
I love that you crochet. As long as I can remember, I've had the gift of sight. It's not all it's cracked up to be. But here are some of my more notable, read terrifying, interactions with the spirits I've come across for the pod. If you want more, I'd be happy to send them. All the good vibes, Ollie. Names are made up for privacy, except for the imaginary friend. I kept that the same.
All right, let's hear it. No, but let's do it.
There's 3 stories in here. And then there's an update. So,
Oh, Jesus.
The little girl. I was 3 or 4 when I had an imaginary friend that I'd play with and talk to for hours, which isn't unusual for children that age on its own. But my friend, Alyssa, knew when my older sister Alice was misbehaving, sneaking out, smoking, drinking underage, etc. And when she did these things, I would go up to her and say, Alyssa is mad at you. It scared my sister so much, she began to use, quote, the hairy, scary monster from Full House to make me stop.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't remember what she looked like, but it's odd that she knew things I had no way of knowing. I'm not sure if she was the same little girl, but I have a gut feeling she was. Then, when I was 8, we moved to a house in the foothills of Appalachia. 4 houses up is a graveyard. You can even access it from our next door neighbor's backyard. Relevant for later experiences. The night we moved in, I had a nightmare. It was set in the new house with no furniture. I walked into the breakfast nook, which has 3 large windows looking out into the woods. In the dream, there was a giant wooden purple dollhouse on a raised platform just outside the window. It began to spin. As it spun faster, the gravity in the house began to increase until I was lying on the floor looking into the kitchen. She was standing there in a dress that once belonged to my second sister, Carol. She had long brown hair and electric blue eyes. She kept crying about something wanting to eat her, pointing at the floor vent. I was able to move when she looked away from me, so I walked closer. As I did, the floor vent cover flew off, and a scaly, gross, pus-covered green hand reached out of the vent, grabbed her ankle, and pulled her in. I was terrified of that vent for months.
Me too.
Then a few months later, my mother asked me to grab her purse from upstairs. Upstairs is a single hallway with my parents' bedroom at the top of the stairs. The hall stretching to the left, 2 bedrooms on the left wall, the bathroom and 3rd bedroom on the right wall. My room was on the left, closest to the stairs, and Carol's room was at the end. The bedroom across from Carol's was our brother's. As I left my parents' room to go downstairs, I saw someone at the end of the hallway. Thinking it was one of my siblings, I turned. It wasn't. At the end of the hallway facing me was a little girl, about 6 or 7, with long brown hair and an old-fashioned drop-waist Edwardian-style white dress. Seriously, look at girls' clothes from the Edwardian period, 1910-ish. Though I noticed her eyes first, they were the same electric blue as the girl had in my nightmare. I blinked and I saw myself from her point of view, pale and trembling at the top of the stairs. When I blinked again, I was back to looking at her. She smiled at me, then turned and walked through my sister's very obviously closed bedroom door. I ran down the stairs, and when Mom joked that I looked like I saw a ghost, I just laughed along because ghosts aren't real, right?
Wrong.
In middle school, I saw her a few times in the hallway or in my dreams. Much like the first nightmare, she would hold me still somehow and drag me along like a doll. To cope, I drew a picture of her and stuck it on a shelf up high. Alice saw it when I was rearranging my shelves and said, "This looks like the little girl ghost that lived in our closet in Ohio when Carol and I shared a room."
Oh my God.
Naturally, I was curious and asked about it. Alice told me how she would stand in their closet, even if the light was on, and stare at them all night. All Carol would tell me was that she didn't want to talk about it.
I'm sorry.
Staring at them all night?
Mm-mm.
Who is she? Why?
What does she want? Yes.
When I was babysitting one, I'm just like fed up.
I am
At this
too.
point, I'm so scared.
I really want to like lay out on the couch right now and cover up my head.
When I was babysitting one time, we were in my room, what used to be my brother's room. The kid, May, asked me a question. In my right ear, I heard a whispered, "No." I so freaked out that I didn't even process what May had asked me. But she asked if there was a ghost in the hallway. I was friends with her big sister Jasper and had confided in her about the ghost. So she told May to spook her. And no kidding, she wasn't in the hallway. She was in my room with us. I tried to play it off, but I slept with the light on that night. Ghost is like, "Nope, I'm not in there.
Don't talk about me.
I'm not in the hallway. I'm right here." In high school, I moved into Carol's room and the nightmares got more frequent. One night around 3 a.m., I woke up from a nightmare to her standing at the foot of my bed. I turned on my bedside lamp and she turned to static, but remained there for a good hour. Just a cloud of static about 4 feet tall. That evening, I began to research spiritual protections and found safety in witchcraft and paganism. During COVID lockdown, I was sitting at my desk painting, and in the same year as last time, I heard, "Hi," in the same whispery voice. I said, "No, you aren't welcome here. Goodbye." Then ran downstairs. I cleansed and warded my room when I stopped being a chicken and went back upstairs.
Nice.
Since then, I have felt her every now and again, but I haven't had a nightmare, seen her, or heard her.
Yes, this is what I like to hear.
They just go away?
Yes.
Recently, I went to visit Carol and her husband for a week. I got her side of things. The little girl has followed her from Ohio to every single house she has lived in since, even as an adult. Carol told me that the little girl has made my sister see herself in the same way she did to me, and that she likes to play with spiders, both in dreams and in the real world. She would hold my sister still in the same way in her dream and make spiders crawl over her. I woke up to multiple wolf spiders in my room at various times after nightmares before I began to protect myself. I never thought to connect the two and I am now even more wary. She often appears in my sister's dreams, once even in the same dress from the first nightmare of her. Gives me chills. I'm not sure if she is a child spirit that likes to play in ways that accidentally come across as scary because she doesn't understand, or if she's something else, pretending to be a little girl. But either way, I'm not taking any chances.
Pretending.
Definitely. To invoke that much fear into people.
And then
follow
to say
them around
like
forever.
It feels too taunty. It doesn't feel fun and lighthearted and I want to play. It feels like
Torturing.
Yeah.
Especially in the dreams, making
no.
spiders crawl over, dragging them around.
Disgusting.
This one's titled The Shadow People. The house is situated in the middle of 3 acres, 2 of which are woods, and the middle third is a huge clearing. I had the misfortune of having to take the trash cans to the curb, as was my chore. If I forgot to do it before sundown, I would refuse to go alone. It wasn't so bad going down to the tree line, but once under the trees, I would be followed by shadow people. Usually 1 or 2. They never crossed onto the driveway, but I instinctively knew if I stepped off, something bad would happen. Just this sinking feeling in my gut and the urge to sprint back to the porch. The driveway is the length of a football field and I hate running, but I did it every time I was out alone after dark. Carol also had experiences with them. She would go for walks through the backwoods often. She said to not go at night because one chased her from the edge close to the cemetery all the way back home, which caused her to drop her phone somewhere out there when she tripped. They come out of the woods sometimes, and other kids in the neighborhood claimed they saw them too. I never looked outside at night and have thick curtains in my bedroom. Didn't she say they're in Appalachia? It didn't stop them from coming inside though. There was one in my parents' bathroom.
You keep just saying outrageous things. I'm like trying to settle in and like lock into here. And then you're like, it was in my house. I'm like,
there was one in my parents' bathroom hovering in the doorway at night, unless the light was on. But even then, you could feel it watching. I only slept on the floor of their room if I was extremely sick because of that one. I had one that was 7 feet tall and would stand over the side of my bed watching me sleep. Several of my friends saw him when they spent the night and asked me about it in the morning. Not many people like to stay a second time. He disappeared when I started protecting myself. Personally, I think it has something to do with the graveyard and high water table in the area.
I could believe that, but also I'm glad they said not many people wanted to stay because I was like, were people coming back or was it a one night? Like,
I think it would be a one night for me. If I saw a 7 foot tall shadow person watching me sleep,
it wouldn't even be a whole night. I'm calling mom.
I'll see you at school.
Yep.
The last story. Hospital. I had a cancer scare a couple years ago and had to have invasive abdominal surgery. When I woke up after my surgery, my mother had gone home, but I wasn't alone. I heard whispering above me, like they were trying not to wake me. Voice 1, male. Do you think? Voice 2, female. Nah, her vitals look fine. Voice 1, do you think she can hear us? Voice 2, no one has before. Voice 3, different female. She can hear you. She's awake. Voice 2, she shouldn't be with the amount of pain control she's on. At this point, I opened my eyes to see the weirdest assortment of people in my room. A nurse and 2 elderly patients. One was a woman with white hair and a cane on my right by the door. To my left was a nurse with brown hair and dark blue scrubs and an African-American man with a dark brown and white beard. Both he and the old lady wore hospital gowns. I didn't understand why there were people in my room until the old lady floated through the door. Then the man walked through the foot of my bed and the nurse flew over me and out the door. I took a sip of water, hit my pain pump, and went back to sleep after that because I was in too much pain to give a flying F. When I woke up next, the nurse from before was hovering over me by about a foot, like we were standing face to face. She was making the most god-awful, terrifying faces. So like before, I took a sip of water, hit my pain pump, and prayed myself to sleep. Some nurses honestly need better bedside manners, lol. Though I think she was trying to get a reaction on purpose to know if I could see her. But on reflection, I am terrified that spirits in the hospital were just casually discussing my death over my sleeping body, like it was just another Tuesday in the break room. Also, how the old lady knew I could hear them is beyond me, but really unsettling.
That is the part that scared me the most, like she's awake.
Yeah, like no,
what
she can hear
you. You mean? I would have never opened my eyes.
No.
I'd be like, I'm not.
Actually, I am dead.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed reading more than I enjoyed experiencing these very true stories. Keep up the great work on your pod. Ollie.
Thank you all. I feel exhausted. My eyes have been watering. My head hurts. I'm numb and cold and hot at the same time. I lost all steam at the end. I literally could not even look at you.
I honestly didn't expect so much terror, and I am also drained of all energy now.
Just straight horror for like 2 hours now.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. We hope that you are just as frightened. Thank you everyone who sent in stories. These were so great.
Thanks for sticking through around during spooky season.
We hope you're here next month.
Stay with us through November, and we're going to do more listener stories. We have a ton.
We have so many. So, as I said before, taking your break next month. So, next week, you'll only be getting one episode, and that for the next 4 weeks, so through November. But the first week of December, we'll start back up with listener stories again because we have so many. I want to get through all of them. I want to hear everybody's story.
Same. And with the rate we're going, we're going to have like 10 years worth of listener stories. So,
which is great. I'll do this for the next 10
lock
years.
in, guys.
Yes, but we appreciate you taking the time to listen with us today. This is a long one, probably our longest episode to date.
I think so.
But it was a good one.
It was a good one.
So we don't blame you if you had to stop a few times and come back to make it to the end because
I did.
Subscribe if you haven't already and like this video if you liked it. Share this video with your spooky friends if you feel compelled to do so. And we hope that you have the spookiest, happiest, safest Halloween.
We do. Goodbye.